Okay. I want to dedicate today's shir to a special woman. Yeah, we're good. Mrs. Tema Hershkowitz, which was a member in our shul for many, many years and passed away a few minutes ago in the Methodist Hospital. Mrs. Hershkowitz uh, was a survivor. Her father was a Rov, forgetting the name of the city, in Poland. And the Germans came in 1939. So the family right away went to the forest to hide. For 6 years of the war, she hid in the forest. For 6 years, she was in the forest.
The whole family escaped?
Yes, and the Germans. It was once the Germans caught them, and bullets were flying from all sides. And her father fell in front of her, but her mother and her were able to duck, and they were saved. Mrs. Hirsch was a very, very special woman, and everyone. She was not here coming to shul for a very long time, but people used to go visit her in her house. She lived a few. She lived in the same building as Hassan Azar, and we once had many years ago a long conversation. She said, we survivors came to America and we saw the glitz and the glamour of America. She said, I wish I could do it all over again. Ich will gemacht, alles soll sein fremd. Der Stift soll sein fremd, der Kinder soll sein fremd, sollen gehen in Yeshivas. Rebbe, ich gemacht, das ist ein Mistake. Ihr könnt nicht verstehen, wie groß ein Mistake ich gemacht.
Teves.
Never. It's a good. I mean, it's not like it's good to tell over words of a woman who was a very wise woman. She meant it. She meant it. She said it with her whole heart. So Yehi Zichra Baruch.
How old was she?
And Mrs. Hershkowitz, how old she was? Probably in the 90s. I don't know. I don't know.
She had children and grandchildren?
Yeah, but, then yeah.
I think she had to be north of 90.
Huh?
I think she'd be north of
Probably,
90.
yeah.
Let's send Michael Brown.
Okay. Okay.
She liked the building of the rebuilding process, right?
Now she lived in this building, a very Jewish building over here in the
How old was she?
must have been in the 90s. She remembered the Germans marching in 1939. So how young could she be?
What a miracle to survive 6 years in the forest.
Yeah, to survive 6 years in the
What to
fire.
eat.
Yeah, exactly. She did not have chocolate chip cookies. That I know for sure. Okay. I mean, someone asked this week a question. So, so someone in the family, so she decided she's going to have the process of IVF. So she got the donor sperm. I'm not sure the protum about if they were medaic, where to get sperm, where not to get, because if they would have asked the Shiloh, that would have been another subject. Probably the best thing would be to take sperm from a goy, and then there's no Shiloh with Yuchsin and everything. But anyway, they didn't ask me Shiloh, what to use and what not to use. Metzius is that she did the process and she's pregnant, Baruch Hashem. Okay. Not married. Now the question is like this. The question is, could she date? Could she get married? Chazal say that a person is not allowed to get married to Muveres and Menekes Chavede for 24 months. I mean, if a woman is married, if a woman is pregnant she's she's 2-3 months pregnant, so now she has to wait close to 3 years to be able to marry someone. So the shaila is this is all part of the shaila. They're asking a shaila. This was a shaila that no one asked Lumbus. They
Why
just
is it
asked.
based on the 2 years? I don't understand.
We're going to learn about it now.
Is this just a question? Maybe something happened?
No. Someone asked me this week. I spent
Really?
a lot of time on the shaila this week because it was relevant. I wouldn't spend time in it if it wasn't a relevant shaila. I was asked, so I looked into the shaila. Okay, let's read a little bit the Gemara, since then the shaila, and then we'll talk a little bit. Obviously, there is tremendous amount of shilas trivus about this. Such shilas didn't start yesterday. So let's just read the Gemara quickly. The main Gemara about this. We learned in the Braisa that a person is not allowed to marry muberes chavere menekes chavere. So why? If he marries her, he has to divorce her, and he can't remarry her. Why? The Gemara says, maybe you'll say, that maybe when someone marries a muberes, that it'll ruin the uber because he'll sleep with her. And a man with his wife.
What's the Uber?
The fetus.
It's supposed to be good for the fetus.
So yeah. Okay, exactly. Whatever it is, however she would figure it out with her husband, with her first husband, she'll figure it out with the second husband. Then maybe that when the man will sleep with her, he'll choke the baby to death. And if that could happen, the Gemara says, if that's a possibility, so a man with his own child, when a man sleeps with his wife when she's pregnant, he does it in a way that it's his child, so he's passing the child. So he does it in a way that he knows for sure that the child will be safe. If you say that Rashi says, if you say that it's possible to sleep with a woman in a way that the baby won't be harmed, it's hard to imagine that a yid, a mamish, would go be a dayim and go kill another baby. Nah, it's for sure he'll have rachmanas on the baby, even if it's not his baby. It doesn't make sense to the Gemara to say that would be takonas chama because a man. It's funny thing is that the Rambam does bring this reason because even the Gemara slugs it up. So it's a big shackle of Ataya. How did the Rambam bring a reason which is the Gemara slugs up?
Subconsciously, maybe.
Yeah. Ella stam muberes l'minike kaima. When a woman is muberes, the stama she'll be meaning. There could be a case where the baby doesn't want to nurse or the mother can't nurse, and you have to figure out, different. Like today, they have a formula for the baby. We're scared that there maybe if she'll marry someone else, she'll become pregnant, and then when a woman gets pregnant, at some point she can't nurse anymore. It's ma'acher chalba, and then a lot of times from families, it's what happens by us. How do you figure out your wife is pregnant? Because the baby doesn't want to nurse anymore. So, why the baby is not nursing all of a sudden? Oh, I take a pregnancy test. Mazel to pregnant. So, the day nami. So the Gemara says again, what's the difference if the first husband, second husband? The day memasm salei bebeitzim v'cholov. The day nami memasm salei bebeitzim v'cholov. In those days, if a baby didn't nurse or a baby nursed, they needed a supplement, they would take beitzim v'cholov and they would mix it together and they would give it as a bati. That was the trick. Beitzim v'cholov. Today, it's they have more sophisticated things to make formula. Fakir, Cholov is not considered so good for a lot of babies are allergic from cholov. So there are formulas that have cholov in it, and there are mothers that dafka don't want to have cholov because they're choishish. Maybe the baby is allergic to cholov. But that's what they had in those days. They would have a formula. They would mix beitzim v'cholov and put it in a bottle and give it to the baby. So the Gemara, maybe lo yoav lebal, maybe the second man will not give her the formula. The titminu liyorshim. Let her go to Bezin and ask the Yorshim to pay for it. Amar Abaye said, Isha boisha lava la Bezin v'yireges beno. A woman is going to be scared to come to Bezin because she has busha. And Rashi says yireges beno doesn't mean she chashom take with her hand and kill her son. She's not going to kill her son, but the baby's not going to eat properly. And the Rachmana litzlan, the baby will die from starvation. Neglect. Okay. So here, so let's read right away the Teves. Stam uberes v'nika kaimer of Shimshon Zakon Esher Rashba, which is one of the older Balei Teves, the Rash Mishantz. Rabbi Shimshon Zakon Esher Rashba hoya oimer the grusha minekes muter linos. The Gemara says, it's in the end of the Gemara, it's mashman, we're talking about an almon. But if it would have been a grusha, no problem. Because she's not meshubah to nurse the baby. He can't force her to nurse the baby. She could bring the baby to his door and say, "Have a nice day." Which woman would do such a thing? But that's the din. And forget it. Not only that. It's exactly.
You can't force a grusha, or you can't force it on mana.
A grusha. You can't force a grusha to take care of the baby.
Why?
It has to be separate. First of all, he has to pay her child support. And second of all, even if he pays her, she could say, I don't want to do it. And Bezdin, so it gets a little complicated, but still being a gay soon. Bezdin, okay, at least according to many poiskim, Bezdin will only force her if the husband is forthcoming to pay child support.
Oh.
And the baby already nurses from her so much at Makida that the baby refuses to eat any other food besides the mother, that because the baby got used to his mother, baby wants to nurse from the mother. How's Bezin going to force her? They'll hit her.
They'll give her.
They'll hit her. It should.
You mean if he leaves her with a baby?
They'll threaten her.
You mean
They'll threaten her. They're going to tell her if we chap that if we hear from neighbors the baby's crying, that means the baby's hungry. We're going to bring you to Bezin and we're going to hit you. And the pashas, the woman will be scared. A baby cries and the baby's hungry. So the Bezin's going to hear from the neighbors that the baby's crying. They tell her, we hear the baby crying. We're going to bring you to Bezin. We're going to hit you. So she's going to go up to Bezin. The baby's crying. She's going to say, no, I'm not nursing. I'm really nursing. So they can say, why is the baby crying? Bezin is no monkey business.
What's the reason? Because he left her with a baby? In other words, he took.
It's his responsibility. It's his responsibility to feed the child. It's his baby.
So what about it on money? Somebody.
She goes. She also. But let's read till the end of Tosus. The ain't need a Rabbeinu Tam. The Rabbeinu Tam doesn't like the shit of Rabbeinu Shimshon. Oh, the high damya. The whole boy lememe the time of Mishum Sandal Mishum Dechse loy v'chiluk ben almana lagrusha. In the beginning, when the Gemara said that maybe the father, the second husband, who's not the father of the baby, maybe he'll sleep with his wife in a way that he'll kill the baby. So at that point in the Gemara, there's no chiluk bein amon and grusha, right? Because it sounds like the Gemara was only choize from the tam, but not in the din. Almona gufa yamra in his own Almona also could say bazoi. Almona could say at some point she's not meshubah to oitavik suvasa. Let me shabda she's not meshubah to nurse the baby anymore. So bottom line, we have a machloikis. Rabbeinu Tam, Rabbeinu Shimshon. That Rabbeinu Tam says, loishna grusha, loishna almona. She has to nurse the baby, and therefore no one's allowed to marry her, not only for the pregnancy, for 2 years later. And then Rabbeinu Shimshon is mekel. He says the only thing is only by almona. Let's read even the Shulchan Aruch quickly, because then we'll start talking a little bit. Gozer chacham shlis adam v'li yikadosh muberes chavere v'le menex chavere ad shir lavlat chov dal chodosh v'hainik v'yim ha'shkoyim ha'chodoshim echad malo v'echad chosach v'smiyim shenel v'yim shenskatcha v'chasheverich iber erlo l'nin chav dal chodosh. Bein shalomon, bein gerusha, bein mezana. I don't care. Bein begilgul zeh, bein begilgul achik. I'm joking. That's not true. That it doesn't matter. She always
Translation.
that the translation is simple. He's not allowed to marry a woman that's nursing a baby for 24 months. I don't care if the woman is alona, a grusha, or tzayna, all circumstances. He's not allowed to marry her. V'yesh mekilim b'zayna. The Rama said there are those that are makel by a zayna. V'yesh lahakal b'mufkeres liznus kedei she'bayla mashamra. And there are those that are makel if the woman is mufkeres liznus. Because this way she'll get married and she won't be mufkeres liznus. Her husband will keep an eye on her that she's not mezana. Okay, the end of this, if you could read yourself, time is short. It's very strict. He's saying that even, she can't wiggle out of this obligation. It's hard, almost impossible to wiggle out unless mamish that she could prove that she can't nurse a baby anyway. She can. She can prove she can't nurse, and the baby's already drinking milk from a bottle. She has to mamish. It's almost impossible to wiggle out of this takonas chacham.
Put this thing down. These two men.
The gro is everything is very bekitzah. And this is the key to my sugi over here, which is negay to my shaila, and I think to many shailas, like contemporary shailas, which is going to be IVF, which is the Rabbi Shimshon argued menakotza lakotza. The Rabbi Lachoida said that I don't care if she's on mona grusha zona. You're not allowed a woman that has a baby, not allowed to marry her till 24 months. Rabbi Shimshon says this din is only if she's an almona. So what? But why did the Ramah say we'll be makel by a zona? Why shouldn't we makel also by a grusha? If you're already going to be makel like Rabbi Shimshon, yeah. Are you going like Rabbi Shimshon? You're not going like Rabbi Shimshon. Okay. So here I want to step back and I want to explain where the mocker of the kula comes from, and I think a lot of the poskim, including maybe even the Noda B'Yehuda, didn't see the marim means, and it's very important to see the tshuva. It's a very, very long tshuva, but you got to learn the whole tshuva to understand. And then when you understand the story of the tshuva, then you can go forward. The maram mints is Rabbi Yehuda Mintz, which was the Rav of Padva. He was unusual thing. There's a story about the kiddush. There's a discussion about the birchas achama, and there's in Sforim they bring a raya, a whole story about what he did. But he was already past the age of 100 years old. He already passed the age of 100. Back, he passed away in 1508. Life expectancy, Nebuch Eden that were going. Yeah.
Wow.
And he was a regular professor at the University of Padua, and he's made that most of the Notzrim who are Mulumodim in Padua were his Talmidim. And he was, yet he's ungenommen a poisik, the Marshal writes about him, and the Rebbe Mizrahi, the write about him, that his clarity in halacha is unbelievable, and he's quoted all the time in his Shilas of Chuvas. I mean, his name tells you that he's not originally from Italy, because you're with a name like Mintz, you can only come from Germany, right? Like name like Mintz, you're coming from Germany, somewhere in Germany. But he moved there, and then his Einik called as Maram Padva took over. He was in Rosh Yeshiva and for 47 years, and his grandson, the Maram Padva, also was a Pesach for 40 years. Also, his Shilas of Chuvas are very meforsim. So there are the Chuvas of the Maram Mintz that he printed in his lifetime, and what happened was that he had a tremendous amount of kisvei yad, and a week after he passed away, year after he passed away, the Barbanel passed away, and they were buried next to each other, and there was a war that happened a few years later, some in that region, and the Kvarim were lost, and all his kisvei yad were burned. So Adayom, it's not known exactly where these two Gedolei Olam are buried. The Maram Mintz, his Shilas Chuvas are brought, the ones that he printed, that we do have, are brought all the time. So he says like this, here's the story. So it's important to understand the story, to understand the lomdus. He said there was a woman in Germany, she was a Zoina. Her name was Rachel. And whoops, usually she was careful and she never got pregnant. She got pregnant. Okay. Wasn't meant on. So bushes and family. So they had a family friend that lived in Padua, and he said, and he said, let her move to Padua. Was nicht good? Let her come live here. Don't worry, I'll set her up. I'll take care of her. The Maram calls him Reb Mordechai, but at the end of the tshuva, he's like he makes it clear that he doesn't think that he given the gerest, mamish the gerest tzaddik in the Welt, that he really perhaps always wanted to marry her. He liked her. He wanted to marry her. Okay, but that doesn't bother the Maram. He says what happened. What happened was when she came to Padua, there were pritzim that told her, "Why don't you set up shop over here? We'll rent a house for you, and you could be a regular zone, and we promise you regular business." He says that, unfortunately, he says there is yesh peretz v'yesh tzvacha b'recha v'seinu. There's a lot of Yiddish Shemaim. This is Padua in 1480. There's going from a Yid, and they're very upset about it. But they went to the.
I was going to say the opposite.
Yeah, they went to the Italian government, and they wanted to make that it should be illegal, at least in the Jewish neighborhood, to have Beis Zoynos. And the Italians are not masking. They say it's a mitzvah gedola in every neighborhood there should be Zoynos. Why? The goyim say because that's going to be matzel from the Chet of Eisashish, because it's designated Zoynos. So the Italians the Italians don't agree. They no. They say it's a mitzvah gedola. There should be Zoynos in every neighborhood. So he says there's nothing we can do about it. He says this woman is Ania, and she's going to run out of money soon. And she tells me that she's resisting the offers she's getting. But Vilang, she doesn't even have where to live. They said Mordechai found her an apartment. Then he found her an apartment in the Beis HaChaim where the grave digger lives. And she's telling the Rav, she's coming to Rabbi Yehuda, the Marimins, and she's telling him that she has a little baby, 3 months old. She has to support herself and the baby, and these people are offering her good money and everything. Liedach, this Mordechai says if he'd like to marry her. The problem is he can't marry her; he has to wait for 2 years. So, the Kitzer, the Maram Paskin that Mordechai is allowed to marry her. He's allowed to marry her, and he said that, and there was a little bit of a tumult against him. I talked to him. He said I brought it up to the Bezdin. And everyone agreed with me. And he says, I'm going to write a tshuva. It's a very, very long tshuva. And it's very geschmack. So first of all, that's where he starts his tshuva. He says, never mind how you learn the machlokes. He goes through thoroughly the Gemara. It's very geschmack. It's a yeshivish way of learning the Gemara. He goes through the Gemara and the machlokes and more of the geschmack. But first thing he says, look, I'm saving an entire city from doing Avedas. The Gemara says, we learned about it once. I remember I gave a shir about it 2 years ago. The Teves and Daf Dalid, because we were learning Tzach Shabbos then. So I gave it a shir on this. This is Mama, when we start. We're holding now Daf,
Without her,
Daf Mem, it's Daf Dalid.
You're not going to set up the base dus without her, you think? Instead of saving the whole city? Or one less zone?
Yeah. That's that's the way you start. That's yeah. They see it's not when they start winning battles, that's how to show him and things get out of hand. But here is came a woman that there's a weakness, and she came to the rabbi, and the Rav was Masad Kiddushim from here, and then the Shoim see that Segetzinish does a good.
Yeah, you don't have to look at it like those crops because of myself. And they have single women. They're not selling themselves. They're just looking for men to support someone to give them.
That's what he's saying. The way he talks about her, he does. He says that Fakert. He talks about her very respectfully. It's very interesting. He says Ania. He says Zoisa Isha. Fakert. Ela Ania oimed. Zoisa Isha rochel bebeis hamachne bo etz laktas min aporitzim lefatoisa lishmor lahem lias mufkeres lakoil. Ela shania oimedes chozak al mishmarte lebilti shmoya lahem. But he says, how long she's going to have to? He says, Anias maviris adam al daitev al das koinoi. He says, Nebacham says, I'm scared. He says that if she's going to be very hungry one day and she's not going to have what to feed herself and the baby, she'll be nichshul. No, he's not. His time is against the Rishonim, not against. Right. Right.
Not necessarily based on it, but like.
This is why I'm going to bring it back to this is very that and a very important nakuda, which again is going to be negated when I want to wrap it up. Lagabi today, he says there's two problems here. He says, oh, 1 second. The Gemara says that there was a woman that she was a shifka and she was being mezana with everyone in town. And there was a machlokes that Ravina said you're mechayev to be meshacher. Abaye said you're not. So the Gemara says, what do you mean? Chatzi evet chatzi mechayev, and the Gemara says you're mechayev to because the woman never can't get married to anyone. The Gemara says over there she can't get married to anyone, but over here you could tell the owner to buy a Evid and let the Evid marry the Shivcha. Why do you have to free her? But the Marim Min says that over there was a Isa de Raisa, but here he's talking about to marry Minax Chaver is Isa de Rabbanon. So even Abai would agree. And anyway, the halacha is that in order to save, okay, that's very complicated. I'm not going to go through that whole sugya again. Because it has to be a very egregious case, like that she's going around town. Tosa says one shot, and in that case of the woman, she was going around town and seducing all the men. So it was like a big niche. That it was a very, very big niche. So the story of the shifta.
That's the kind of woman I want to meet.
So she was a very big niche. And it's very important to understand this because if you're going to say that that's the case over here, today, not every woman is that way. If they're not religious, or even if they're religious, but they're never single and they need a little bit of attention or they need a little this and a little that, but they're not mufkedis, they're not running around town. But here's the other nakuda. He says this woman, if she chatzshon becomes a zayna, number one, loytia kadesha. There's isa loytia kadesha. Means a woman that not one time off, because one time off is lav dafka isa deiraisa, but a woman that designates herself to be a soina, that's kadesh. And the second thing he says is the bottom line is a woman that's not married doesn't go to the mikveh. So there's isur nidus, and that's a very big sin every time that she's over isur koris and he's over isur koris. So I'm bringing it up because later when we want to wrap it up and talk about it, Lamaisa, it's going to be very relevant because sometimes today it depends. A lot of times today, when you're marrying off a couple, the shliach is marrying off a couple, you're really doing a very, very big mitzvah. Because the couple comes and they do a couple. I was Masad Kedushin. No, people call Rabbi. I saw this Chabad of Midwood. So can we meet? Yeah, sure. Would you marry us? Sure, I'll marry you. My answer is always sure. Come, let's meet. Now, when we meet, so some people are smarter. You could say, I don't like to do so smart because I don't want to waste my time, and I don't want to roll the dice. And the first meeting, I always say like this. I explain the beauty of Taras Mishpacha. And I say, look, in the general population, one of two get divorced, if not more. And if you look from houses that the Baruch Hashem, there's beauty, there's shine. So there's only one recipe, and that's the godly recipe of how to have shalom bayis. Explain it. Then I say, if you're willing to learn about it and entertain it, then we'll misad kedushin. Like some shulchan say, don't talk about their whole life. Just talk about that they have to for the chassan, that just for the chassan and go to the mikveh. I don't want to do that. I don't want to waste my time. Now,
do you check whether really
then
Jewish?
You waste. I don't want to check the yuchsim first because I think if they came to me, they're probably Jewish. I want to first talk to them about Taras Mishpacha. Then start checking yuchsim. They feel like they're in. And then you start talking to them, and then they feel like it's not nice what the rabbi did. And that's the way I feel. First,
You don't check their background?
I'm going to check the background. Once they're going to tell me, yeah, they want to do Taras Mishpacha.
90% good.
So yeah, probably they're Jewish if they came to me. Oh, could be a Kohen, could be a Zay. There could be issues. But I don't want to lead them on. If I ask them for documents, and then right away, so the rabbi led us on. There was a couple that came here. We sat upstairs. I did my spiel. They said they'll think about it.
It's all or nothing, or else it's either yes.
Yeah, all or nothing. They have to commit for the whole life.
Wow.
So again, the other shluchim say it's like more for the chasna. Whatever. Let's just in my mind, it's like they know they know that they could be mishakin. So at least try to be mishakin. So say you're going to do it the whole life. The veist that I'm not going to be around with a stick to check. They know that they're not dumb. So if they're willing to say that they're going to do it, right? So even if they're lying, so what's going to happen? They're going to learn the Hilchos HaRashubah. She'll go to the mikveh before the chas. Because I'll call her the day before that. So you went to the mikveh. Okay. And I'm going to also ask the woman that she learned with you. Then she'll experience how beautiful it is. So Bez Hashem, they'll keep it for the rest of their life, maybe. But if the Chatchila they say, no, we're not doing it, and then to think, no, but when she'll have the experience, she'll have a serusa. Better they lie, and then the Nefesh Shalakis takes over. That's what I think. The funny thing.
She tells you the truth that she's not going to do it. You won't marry them, right?
No, we'll marry them.
What?
No, I won't marry them. So this couple, they came. They say, Rabbi, we found you on the internet. That's right. We came upstairs. It was on a Sunday. I called them a few days later. So the woman says, Rabbi, no, we don't need your services. There's a female reform rabbi that will marry us off. And she said it's not necessary to go to the mikveh. Okay. Whatever. It's like, obviously there was.
You know what? She sprinkled holy water on them. That's right.
Obviously there was,
There's even something better than that, because if you perform a valid kiddushin, since at least 50% are getting divorced, so that they get divorced by the civil marital. Yeah. So it's better not to make a kiddushin in the first place.
Exactly. The only reason it's good to make kedushin, and they both admit to keep the halachas their whole life.
Then you know what.
Can you guarantee? You can't guarantee. But you're not going to be Masad Kedushin unless you know that he went and learned, or he learned with me, and she went and learned with a Kala teacher, and she completed the entire course, and that she went to the mikveh.
Mhm.
So at least you accomplished something. Why I'm telling all this is because it's relevant. I'll even say right now what my Nakuda is. I think, Lamaisa, if it's a woman that you think, because the problem is that Ramos says that she has to be mufkeres liznus. Did he mean, and the Ramos says that you could be makel if yesh lokal b'mufkeres liznus. Now the Noid Yudach both learn mufkeres means mamish mufker, not stam.
But everybody knows that she's.
Yeah. You can't say it for every woman. Say every woman that's not religious mufkeres liznus. I'm sorry, you can't say. You can't say that. It's not like just because she's not frum, she's running around town and she's mufkeres. I know how you. So then Noid Yehuda says mufkeres means that she proved it 3 times. Why?
Because it's doing the same with Doing the same with What's the difference?
If she's doing
Shaila is
different
very
people.
mufkeres. That Noid Yehuda says that she did it 3 times and it's Noid Adova. It's hard to.
Someone's not from it's not that.
So I think like this. Lamaisa. If you know that if you're going to marry her off, now she's going to learn the halachas, and she's going to go to the mikveh. Or there's a strong chance she's go to the mikveh. So you're being matzel them from a chet chamur. Even if she's not mamish mufkeres, and it's hard to quantify what's a pshat mufkeres, but you're saving them from they're going to go to the mikveh, because now you're going to be Masada Kiddushin, and they're going to go to the mikveh. Then I'd say you should be makel. But if they're not going to go to the mikveh, so what are you really accomplishing here? Well, there has to be. So what are you accomplishing here? So if she's taka mufkedes, you could say that what the moment mufkedes is because then she's called. There's a isur of loitia kedesha. But if she has a boyfriend, a kavudik boyfriend, she's not called a kedesha. So she's not doing any isur deraisa really. And you're not saving her from the Issa de Raisa of Nidus because she's telling you she's not planning to she's not planning to go to the mikveh. So what did you accomplish?
We're not thinking about just having a normal society.
But you're going against the Takonas Chachamim now. Chacham said lo yisa adam menekes chaveda for chov dalat chodesh.
It's not for the destruction of the community.
You have to be very careful about it. There's, for example, there's a shaila. The Noid Yehuda has a shaila, and it's funny that the Noid Yehuda's machmir usually is very makel. He says that there was a woman in a city next to Prague. The Rav asks him, there was a woman, and she is poor, and she was a zayna, and she became pregnant, and now she wants to get married. So Noid Yehuda says, in your case, the whole longer thing is, I think you should be makel. Why? He says, if you remember, last year there was also a zayna, and she was very poor, and she became pregnant, and then she went to court to claim for child support from the guy who made her pregnant, and that guy claimed it's not true. She never became pregnant for me. So what?
She had a lot of men. So
Okay, so he says what happened was that the court took away the baby, and they put the baby and the baby in a foster home, and Mamela, the baby became a Nazi. So he says that the mamish that the baby is going to become a Nazi. So it's a baby, but it doesn't matter. It's a baby, but the whole life it'll be a Nazi. It's also going to be a godel. The bottom line is the Noid Yehuda says that you should be makel. You should be makel, but it's like so extreme. There's also in the Piskei Tshuva here. There's an extreme case. It's from one of the child's Tshuvas that in a lot of Muslim countries, if there's a Jewish woman that was pregnant and there's no man, so they made the law by the Muslims everything is choikel mishpat. So that child was taken away by the government, and again the child was. So you'll see in the Piskei Tshuva that in a lot of the Muslim countries, the Rabbanim were makel, and that if a Zayna wanted to get married, they would encourage them to quickly get married to whoever they want. They would try to encourage them as much as possible. Who would want to marry? Takapella, but if someone wanted to marry, they were very excited to.
she's pretty girl.
Whatever, yeah. So
There's a certain level of bina that you need to marry a zayna.
So maybe whatever. They tried very hard to marry off such women, but I want to go back to the Maram Mintz because this is the Yesoid. The Maram Mintz says this. I would say basically three ways of looking at the machlokas that have been a shimshon and Rabbeinu Tam. One way of looking at the machlokas of a shimshon and Rabbeinu Tam is the way the Teves looks at it. Now, there's no svar in Teves. Teves has three strong rayas. Teves says, number one, the Gemara wasn't mechalek between if she is an almana, a grusha, a zona. It's minakis chaveda. Number two, in the beginning when the Gemara said that he's going to kill the baby, the second husband is going to kill the baby, so obviously there's no difference if she's an almana, a grusha, or a zona. Later, the Gemara talks about nursing, and the third nakuda is that also an almana sometimes is not responsible. So if you're going to say it's about the responsibility, and the Mari Mintz slugs up, he brings that there's another Tosfos that one that he doesn't like. He says they didn't quote verbatim from the Rabbeinu Tam, and then there's the Mordechai and the Smag that say different reasons for Rabbeinu Tam. He slugs up the Tosfos to realize where he's living. He's living, he's not living 500 years after the Balei Tosfos. And he says, no, he slugs up the Tosfos. He says, number one, the fact that the Gemara wasn't machalik, but the Gemara talks about nursing. And like I've been nursing, the Gemara says there's a big difference of Zalman and a Grusha. So you're supposed to understand yourself. And the fact that the Gemara in the beginning says that they'll kill the baby, he says, what do you mean kill the baby? If the mother's nursing, it's not shech to kill the baby. Elamai, the Gemara anyway changed. The Gemara should have asked, what do you mean the chashash will kill the baby? But that's only chashash if she's pregnant. If she's nursing, how is he going to kill the baby? Elamai, so a lot must have switched in the Gemara. So don't tell me this logic. Oh, that the Gemara just changed the reason. The Gemara didn't just change the reason. More than just the reason changed.
Unless the Gemara ends up that like, I mean, the Shemayim are, but
But the Gemara slugs everything up. The Gemara ends up that the whole reason is because if she'll marry and she needs, and the baby doesn't have enough milk from the mother, they need to buy formula.
he's not gonna be stingy.
And the second husband's not going to give, and she to go first, so she'll be boisha lava lebez.
I'm not married, but from I've heard, it's unheard of these days for a woman to nurse for 2 full years.
Not sure. Only one 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, plenty.
4 years.
Yeah. Today, fakir. Today, a lot of women want to nurse dafke. It's the reason why babies a lot of times stop nursing is because the mother's already pregnant, and
My nephew, like 5 years old, was nursing.
right, yeah, no, women nurse for a long time these days. Fakir. Women are healthy and they nurse for a long time.
For 2 full years.
But the thing is that some women have a problem because the baby doesn't get enough milk from the mommy. So sometimes that's why they have consultants that help mothers nurse properly. But some women are not calm and they just can't get the hang of how to. I'm saying not calm. It could be one of 100 reasons, but could be begashmis that there's not enough milk in the. Even though there's those that
It's on a diet.
yeah, it could be that exactly. Yeah, if she's not eating properly, a woman has to eat properly and be relaxed, and then they say that there's enough milk. But if the mother's not calm, we're not eating properly, or this or that, and as soon as the baby tastes a little bit of formula, usually that already ruins it. Then okay, partly this, and then it's not going to be for chavdalat kodesh. But a baby that's not having any bottle and is going from nursing to eating. No, Chavdalat Chodesh could be pretty normal. Okay, so
Rabbi,
let me one
question-
second. I just want to go very quickly through the. I'm sorry, the 3
Go ahead.
lumdus. So this is very important. Lumdus number 1, and this the Rambam doesn't say befedish, but I see it. The Rabbeinu Tam holds that Chachamim is Yorda L'Soiv Daito Shalisha. That the Chachamim went to the bottom of the psyche of a woman. And we believe that Chachamim understand the psyche of a human being, the DNA of a woman and the DNA of a man, something which is not changing just because we're in the 21st century doesn't change this. The DNA, which is like this.
Psychologist.
Yeah, exactly. That a woman cares for her child. If you say a woman that after she has a baby, 2 years she can't get married, don't worry. This kid, she'll go from heaven to earth and back 3 times to make sure that her baby has what to eat. Either she'll make sure that she gets a job and she's eating her own food, that's good food, and therefore the baby has what to nurse. Or if Nebach she can't eat, she'll buy Beitz and B'cholov, and don't worry. A normal woman, could be not normal. As soon as she gets married, as soon as she's getting married, he wants to please her second husband. Rabbeinu Tam is not saying these words, but I'm telling you what I feel in Das Rabbeinu Tam, that she's going to fadreit the cup. Now she wants to please her husband, so she's not going to ask him to pay for formula of the baby because she doesn't want to fight with him. So she's not going to ask him. Maybe even he would give, but she doesn't want to. She's not going to ask. Now to go to Bezdin and to ask. That's what the Gemara already says. To go to Bezdin and ask from the Yorshim, she's boy shalov Bezdin, and therefore the baby Nebach is going to be malnourished. And the Rabbeinu Shimshon didn't see it that way. Rabbeinu Shimshon said, no, if she's obligated to nurse the baby, and Bezdin could force her to nurse the baby, so now let's be concerned about the nursing. But if Bezdin anyway can't force her to nurse the baby, so what are you? Anyway, if she wanted, theoretically, she could bring the carriage to Bezdin, knock on the door, and say, "Here's my baby. Adios. Have a nice day." So now you're concerned that she's not going to nurse the baby, but she doesn't have to nurse the baby. That's what Rabbeinu Shimshon said. If she wants, an azoina, any zoina could come to Bezdin. She has no obligation. She comes to Bezdin, Avim Shal Yisoimim. She knocks on the door. Bezdin opens the door. She says, "It's a cute baby. Have a nice day." There's nothing the Bezdin could do. Yeah. Now, the Maramin says you're joking. It's technically that's the din of Pishas, but which the Kehilas are falling apart and they give Nebuchadnezzar stock and there's so many Aniim that's coming from city to city. This is not a takona, this is a takola. But Rabbeinu Shimshon is looking at it in a very narrow prism. He's saying that if you could force the woman to nurse the baby, then you could say she shouldn't get married to another man. But if you can force her, like a grusha and a zayna, there's nothing to talk about. And I think this is the way Toyfus saw the machloikas. And Rabbeinu Tam says, no, it's not a technical thing. It's your the Torah the Soiv Daita Shalodam that a woman very much cares for her baby. So if you're going to tell her she can't get married for 2 years, don't worry, she'll take care of the baby. But as soon as you let her get married, Fadreit the cup, she's going to try to because she wants her husband to like her, and that's the tev of a woman that she wants her husband to like her, and she's going to forsake the baby. And I think that's really what the Balatois understood, and that's the strongest. And therefore, the only way to get over that hump is to say that maybe to be makel by a zayna because we're going to go against Takanas Chachamim. But that's a very strong thing to say we're going against Takanas Chachamim. But then there's another way.
Identify that she's psychological. Or they're identifying that she's not 100% psychological.
So you have to go against Takanas Chachamim. If you're learning this way, the machloikis of Rabbeinu Shimshon Rabbeinu Tam, then it's a big hurdle. There is the way the Manamitz learns. He says, no, there was that the machloikis was only a technical machloikis that Rabbeinu Tam held that that she's meshubed, that she's always meshubed to nurse the baby, and but a Zayna is talking not meshubed to nurse the baby, and even Rabbeinu Tam would be masking.
Because she's a Zayna.
No, because he says that Rabbeinu Tam never said by a grush even. He meant the Rabbeinu Tam was only meant to be machmir, only ban almona. And the Balatoises didn't understand the Rabbeinu Tam. So, but the Balatoises, it's very hard to persuade the Balatoises. And the third way he brings a machlo, he says the Rosh. It seems from the Rosh that the Rosh understood that the machloikas that Rabbeinu Tam and Shimshon was a different language. On Almona, there's no father to make sure to take care. The father died. A grusha, there's a father. So when there's a grusha, if the father's going to hear from the neighbors that the baby's crying, he'll do something about it. So we don't care so much about a grusha. But Almona, that's why we care about. And that was the machlok of Mishum Shana Ben Atam. But according to that, by a Zoyna, again, if no one cares, people are mazana with her, no one cares. So the only way to say that a Zoyna Lakula is if you learn the machlokas and Ben Atam and Ben Shimshon the way the Maramintz learned it. And that to say that the Rabbeinu Tam himself only asad an almona. But what should we do? The Shulchan Aruch disagrees with the Maramintz. This is why it's so important. It's very funny that the Shulchan Aruch brings half of the Maramintz, and that's the problem. The Shulchan Aruch says that she's not allowed to get married. Ben Shalmona, Ben Shigrusha, Ben Shemazana. V'yesh mekilim b'mazana. Who's the mekel? Rabbeinu Shimshon. Rabbeinu Shimshon was also mekel by a grusha. So obviously, Shulchan Aruch wasn't prepared to be mekel.
Are you talking about the Ramah?
Huh?
Are you talking about the Ramah?
The Ramah. He wasn't prepared to be mekel like Rabbeinu Shimshon. Because if he was prepared to be mekel like Rabbeinu Shimshon, he would have said yesh mekilim begrusha ubezayin. Why did he say only yesh mekilim b'mazana? So obviously, because by a zayna there's a special thing. Okay, so we must agree with this. I mean, and we follow the Shulchan Aruch, and no one disagrees in the Shulchan Aruch. So the thing is like this. My little questions over here, because the Ramah adds the yesh lahokal b'mufkeres liznus. Now, in the chuvas of some Sofer and the Noida Behuda, they're pilpling. What does it mean? We have Adim to prove. 2 times she was asking people for no 3 times. I think it's a machlokes Gra and the Noida Behuda. The Gra says that at least By a Zoina, we're relying on the Mari Mintz. So I know in the story of the Mari Mintz, she was not begging people to be Mizana with her. The opposite. People were begging her to be Mizana. And she was not Mufkeris Liznus. So when the Ramot said, V'yesh l'hokol b'mufkeris Liznus, he doesn't mean to quantify that there has to be a certain Hefkedis that we know 3 times she approached men to say. It just meant to say that the Akula is because of the Hefkedis of Znus. So, and that's what sounds to me like the Gro is saying, that we're only makel like the Maram means in the case of a Zoina. But it doesn't mean we're not talking about a Zoina that's begging every man she sees in the street to be Mizana with him.
Right.
But the Noy, the Yehuda, and the Chassam Sofer, who are, as you'll read the Pischitchuv, and then no time for us to read it now, are trying to quantify how big of a Zoina she has to be. And Mamish, they were makel in the case when last year a baby was taken away and put into a Christian foster home. So, but mashma otherwise it wouldn't be makel.
There weren't any Jewish people who had infertility
No.
problems who would have adopted this shit?
No, but the government. The problem is that they couldn't go. Same thing in Muslim countries. The government took away a baby. There was nothing they could do.
In New York, they have this foster arrangement with Jewish, whatever. In other states, I don't think they give.
Yeah, they give it to a goy. So and then they had a special Indian to be menatza Jewish children. There's no kashayla. So therefore, I think I think it's very clear to me that the poskim didn't paskin like Rabbeinu Shimshon, and they also didn't like the pshat that the Mani Mintz had in the Rabbeinu Shimshon, in the Rabbeinu Tam, to say the Rabbeinu Tam would also be murdered by a grusha and the zoina. So they were only makel in the case of a zoina. But how big of a case does it have to be? I think it seems to me from the words of the Gra that he was makel any zoina, which so it's bizman hazeh. Back to our what should we do bizman hazeh? I already said what I think. I think bizman hazeh should be like this: if a woman went to have IVF and she cares to have a child, she's not probably mufkeres liznus. Elamai, most women, even if they're Shabbos and they eat kosher, if they're not married, they don't know the halachas of Hilchos Nidei. They don't mean to be bad. They think it's not shomer nagia, yeah, shomer nagia, not shomer nagia. They think it's a pesamachloikas between the ultra orthodox in Borough Park and the modern orthodox. The modern orthodox are mekel and the mishagoyim are machme. I'm saying, Bemis, ask a frum girl, nevach damaratzis. So she in her mind, she doesn't have to, just like she must be machmer to have dafke a heimische hechshen a chol of Yisrael. She doesn't have to be shomer negia. They don't realize it's a isakodis. They don't realize. They don't know. They don't know it's isakodis. They think it's a joke. They think it's a machloikas apoiskim. It's a machloikas between the ultra orthodox and the modern orthodox.
Is that because the schools don't teach them?
It's also maybe this. Yeah, it's a little bit this the fault of the schools, but that's the mitzias. So the mitzias is that they don't realize how serious it is to touch a woman that didn't go yet to the mikveh. They don't realize that. It's not. They don't realize, and they don't realize the beauty of keeping taras mishpocha v'chulu v'chulu. It's not shaykh. But once they're going to get married, they're going to learn and they'll realize and they'll know the beauty of keeping taras mishpacha, and they know the seriousness of the issa of touching a woman before she went to mikveh v'chulu v'chulu, and then they're not going to sleep with a man before they go to the mikveh. So therefore, I think bottom line, final analysis: if this is a woman that took IVF and she's pregnant now, first of all, b'shas ibuda, you shouldn't be makel anyway, because the Rambam brings it anyway. You see in the Rambam anyway, miuberes is a little more chumradik, but once she has the baby, so if you think that by marrying her she's going to learn the halachas of taras mishpacha, so then I think there's room to be makel. And now that I've let people try to read a shidduch for her,
Even while she's pregnant?
no,
Oh.
after she has the baby. Because the Rambam seems to hold that even lalocha there's a problem of dichasa, and dichasa is there's no way to negotiate it. But after she has the baby, if there's a hope that she would want to get married, and if the rabbi says that you have to learn Hilchas Taras Mikvach, she will learn it. So then it's kedai, even though maybe you're being over, because according to the Benotam, you're not allowed to get married for 24 months. Bain, if she's Almona, Bain Megureshes, Bain Zoina, and we seem to hold that that's really what the Benotam held, because the Torah went into the Chachamim when the Lamdas that I was saying before. It's kedai to be makel like the Manam means for a different reason, because but if it's very clear that this woman is not, she doesn't mind if the rabbi will officiate, a reform rabbi, female rabbi, male rabbi, whoever will officiate at her wedding.
It's a type of
Best
rabbi.
price.
Huh?
The best price.
The best price. Like this woman told me, the Mislish Masad Kiddushin, I found a female reform rabbi will be Masad Kiddushin. So if
No strings attached.
exactly, if that's the case, then bevadai it can't be makel, because what do you mean? Now you're getting involved in a serious machloikis between a Mishim Shem and the machloikis and the Shulchan Aruch and all the noisek clear Shulchan Aruch paskin like Rabbeinu Tam and lechumer in Rabbeinu Tam.
So this woman, she's not from.
No,
Rabbi, I have a question.
but unfortunately, I have to tell you that today there are sometimes from women that also do it.
I have a question, not Shayach to our subject. Yoshua, Gdol Israel, did you know that Rachel is Zona? I made that.
She did tshuva.
She did tshuva. She did tshuva.
She did tshuva.
Huh?
You know her
She was
first.
Megaya. Megaya. Yeah, she was Megaya. She became Jewish. It was a different thing.
And they have any children?
Yeah, they had girls, they had girls. They had no boys, they had girls, they had girls.
They're not together?
Yeah, you be that.
Yeah, I heard that he had.
From
Rachav,
she gets pregnant, like,
from the
still getting married for 2 years.
Can't get married for 2 years.
Why?
Yes.
Why
Yes.
Moshe Rabbeinu אומר את ציפור? יתרו. Yoshua, Arizona.
You need a mikvah for
Why
your
are
It's complicated.
married this kind of woman?
Tzloch everyone that joined us. Okay, the Eibush shall helfen, that all the Yidden that need
So
shidduchim.
what did you tell this
Amen,
woman?
amen.
Huh?
What'd you tell this woman?
By Morozov, I want to ask you something.
I said if she
1 second.
the truth is
Rabbi
she didn't ask the
Morozov.
question. The question was asked by her family if they should help her out find the shidduch. I said exactly what I said now. If you think that she is gonna agree to learn Taras Mishpacha,
No.
then try to find her a shidduch, and that'll be a good idea. And if you think that she's gonna that she'll do you a huge favor by allowing the rabbi to be Mitzad Kiddushin, but she's not gonna learn the halachas Taras Mishpacha, no, it's forbidden. Then you're not allowed to try to find her a
Is
shidduch.
she an older woman,
Yeah, it happens. It happens. I have to tell you.
after 30?
Yeah,
Rabbi Morozov.
He can read my chat and I'll describe a woman that I met here.
and they don't realize how much be'emes they because if they the bush is so big, but they want to have a child, and then that's it, and they realize and they zuk fashidik mezuk 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 mezuk, and then you know.
Rabbi Morozov.
I think the rabbi went
I don't
off.
think she's not attractive, and nobody wants to marry her.
Rabbi Morozov.
I'm
Could,
not-
I'm
could
not
you,
saying. I'm not saying.
Yeah.
One second. What are you saying?
I just want to ask you something. Could you add that maybe the Beis Din or a Rov gets money from the husband to give her to pay for formula if she needs. I mean, if the whole problem
Right,
is that,
that's what he says at the end of the sif, that because even if she makes a neder, and even if they should the feel some blam neck, so gemalat to I feel nishba min neck, so nodr al das rab shlo tagzba yesh emrim the nishba min neck is a konus loyo, it's schwer, it's schwer.
Mhm.
It's schwer. Okay, Shkar for joining us.
Thank
I
you.
like the background that you have behind you. I don't know if you're.
Put it
I
up.
know you. You
COVID
didn't set up
time.
your computer, Mr. One of your children did.
Yeah, COVID time.
Where's he?
It sounds like fun.
North Palm Beach Garden.
Yeah.
Listen, I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
1 second. Okay, Shikayach everyone for joining us at Slocha de Ketog. All the Yiddish girls that need shidduchim, so machen shidduchim, gute shidduchim, take it from me out.
Amen.
Amen.